She was the first female president of the Architectural Association of Kenya, and together with her husband, they've built a thriving school and architecture business. What does it take to thrive in the world of family businesses? This week we speak to Emma Miloyo. This is She Means Business. I am your host, Claire Munde. Emma, we're happy to have you this week on She Means Business.
Yes.
And you are an entrepreneur and you wear many hats. You were the first woman president of the Architectural Society of Kenya, and you have a school. So today we want to talk about the business side of everything. So first of all, take us through your journey in architecture, then we'll go to the school side.
So I started my ambition to be an architect when I was probably in high school. I happened to be taking art, and I was gifted in that sense of being creative and being able to work with my hands, and I always wanted to be in a career that I'd be able to see what I'm working at and envision what I had created. And I happened to have a very good art teacher who guided me, and sort of through the career counseling program I ended up in architecture. I did my architecture. I joined Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. Fantastic 6 grueling years and graduated with a first-class honors, and here I am several years later with a thriving practice that I started with my husband and classmate in school, and we're almost 18 going on 19, looking forward to celebrating 20 years of the existence of our firm.
Oh wow. So did you always know that you were just going to get into entrepreneurship, or did you feel like you would work sometime and then transition? What was that looking like?
That wasn't, I knew I wanted to practice. Entrepreneurship was not always on the table, as it were, but it's something that we considered, and as part of self-actualization and seeing what we wanted to envision, that became part of the plan. And we were very excited to start very early on with our firm, which is called Design Source, and started that a bit early in our career, and are happy to be a thriving practice now. So had not always been bare, but by the time we were into practice and starting, we thought about that we wanted to have our own firm and be able to express ourselves in a way that really reflected who we were and what our creative spirit was.
Okay, now we'll get to a little bit of that aspect of working with your partner and what the dynamics of that are, but I'd like you to take us through your time at the Architectural Association of Kenya. What was it like being the first woman president of the association? I know sometimes they say you're just the president, you're not a woman president, but it still is a significant role that you played there. What was that like?
It was very exciting. I happened to be president when the association was celebrating 50 years. So first of all, there was already a lot of excitement around that, and then I got into the role. It was very exciting. I think industry welcomed it. The association itself welcomed it. I think everybody was, awed by the novelty of it all. So I think it was very important in terms of putting the AAK on the map at 50 years, but also then having the first female president at that time really ended up lifting the profile of the association, which, its members are mostly men, 90% men, and here there was, they had elected a leader who was female, and that puts the AAK on the map nationally across, whether it was media, whether it was, internationally even in terms of the profile of the association. So it was fantastic, it was exciting, and I think it was a time when AAK really made a shift towards being a very modern, very agile, very forward-looking association, and that in part is because of that major shift to electing a female president.
Okay, and what was your biggest lesson during your time as president?
I think even for me to get to president, it took a lot of people pouring into me, male, female. It was not, you know, a female-driven agenda. Actually, a lot of the people who spoke to me and who lifted me up were people who were men in the practice of architecture, or in the leaders who had gone before me in the Architectural Association of Kenya, my husband, and those are the people who were my support system. So I realized, first of all, that you also now have to pay it forward as a leader. So that was the biggest lesson, that you came here standing on the shoulders of others, and it's your job to let others stand on your shoulders as they climb the ladder to wherever they're going. So that was a big lesson, and I've just been, you know, very awed and to see the leaders that have come after me, to support them. And I think that's the biggest lesson I learned, that, you know, life is cyclic. You receive from others and you pour again to others as well. You always pay forward or hold the door open for others to pass through. And that is important. I think that's awesome. And we'll talk a little bit about mentorship later. But I'd like us to talk about now your entrepreneurship journey in terms of a school. How does an architect get into the world of school? Because, you know, we think vertical integration, you think it will be something in those lines, but then explain to us what your thinking was when you decided to start a school. What was the inspiration behind that? So first of all, education and children is something I've always been passionate about. So I happen to have taught. We called them untrained teachers those days, that you always finished school and got into something, and I taught, and I really enjoyed my my life as a teacher before joining university, and I'd always been passionate about education. And so those for me were not different worlds. They were who I am, even in my architecture and in my what we call a thesis, because when you finish your 6th year you do research. My research was around education and how the environment impacts learning in children. So it's been something that was always a fire burning in me, and something that I was very, very passionate about. And I think the stars aligned in terms of you know, what we wanted to see in a school, and maybe around us we were not seeing that. We wanted a school that was not entirely about rote learning, and at the time it was the time of 844. I wanted a school that was not necessarily following the international curriculum, but borrowing a lot from international curriculums, and raising a global citizen, but who's very, very much grounded in who they are as a Kenyan. And we're not seeing that around. So we started almost a school to solve our own problem, and that's the best kind of business, you know, when you're solving a problem for yourself, and the rest is history.
Wow. So tell us, what were some of those challenges? Because you said you didn't want the rote learning, and you didn't necessarily want the international curriculum. So trying to get a good blend, what were some of the challenges that came with starting a school?
So of course, a school is a very emotional venture, even when parents are choosing a school. So first of all, getting our name out there, new brand, I think 10 years later, there's a lot of new schools that have come into space, but that time there were just still households named and this new kid on the block. So of course, overcoming that. But I think within 1 year, what our ethos was about, value-based education. We're a Christian school. That already, like hit hit a string on a lot of people, and people were able to buy into the brand. Later on, we have started our international curriculum as well, because we've seen there's a lot of potential there. On the flip side, an international curriculum now that has a leaning in terms of a local value system, and then our local system with a leaning towards international. So we find the two are very complementary to each other. But I think slowly getting people's buying, getting people's belief has paid off now, and really just being invested in what you're doing. My children go to my school, and that really speaks to my belief in already what we believe in and what we're doing as a school.
Awesome. Now I'd like us to talk a little bit about the dynamic of doing business with your partner, because the school and the interior design and architectural business are a partnership. So what does that look like? What are the dynamics when it comes to family business, so to speak?
I would say family businesses are the best, just in terms of the trust. A lot of things that would make businesses struggle around trust, for us that's not an issue. I think there's a lot of synergy we build on each other. There's a lot of strengths. We already know very much what our strengths, what our struggles are, and that really helps, even in the context of everything that's happening around us. We have a deeper understanding of what the dynamics are around the business, whether it's whatever's happening at home or in the office or in the business. So I think that has been quite a blessing in that regard. In fact, we've spoken on very many forums about this and how it really it strengthens you as a family. And a lot of any business, whether it's Walmart in America, started off as family businesses. So there's a place for family businesses and for them actually creating a lot of the enterprises that exist in Kenya or worldwide. Big multinationals started just as that, as family businesses.
Okay. Yeah. And tell us about, bringing it to the next generation, because sometimes the statistics show that they don't last through the generations. So how do you ensure that you're building a business that can last for the generations to come, whether your children will want to be there or it just outlives the founders? Yeah,
I think that's something that has to be intentional, whether it's to children or whether it is sustainability is not only about children. It's whoever people invested who believe in the business. So I think right now there's a lot of consciousness around that. There's a lot of awareness and even programs at university and the like that are really talking about succession planning around family businesses, because if the business is able to grow and to the next level through maybe one or two generations, that's really a business that's able to support in terms of economy. It's a business that will be able to grow. So I think Kenyans as a whole are also becoming very aware. I think the Kenyan Asian community have been better at doing that, handing over to the next generation. But I think we are very aware of that, even as an architectural practice. What does the next generation of leaders in our business look like, and what are we doing towards investing in them and ensuring that there's buy-in and that this outlives us, and that at some point you step away and allow others to take charge.
Okay. Yeah. Now I'd like us to talk about the architectural space in Kenya. Where are we as a country? There's a lot going on in the architectural space, the real estate space, but where do you feel Kenya is, and what needs to be done to take us to the next level? Yeah,
I think, to be honest, if I look back over maybe the 5 years that since I was AK president, I'm not sure I'm very excited about what I see in our space. I see a lot of irregular developments. We've had our first demolition, controlled demolition in the country, a building that was sinking. We've seen loss of life, and it's not getting better. I think, in the context of where we are even, we can see there's irregular development that's not following order or plan. So I feel that we have a very short window where we can contain the chaos. And if we do not take, that 2-year, 3-year to contain the chaos, we might lose Nairobi, in the sense of to the chaos itself. Yeah. So I think I am optimistic, but cautiously optimistic, that leadership, that citizenry will be able to demand of what we require. I mean, a big thing is local physical development plans for our neighborhoods that then say what can go where, what should happen, what heights we can go to. That's supported with data and supported with what's already on the ground. And I mean, there's always a big argument to development follow buildings and settlement or vice versa, but there is no plan. Even when the city fathers state that build and the infrastructure will come, but where's the plan even for that infrastructure coming? I mean, so I think there's a small window, and that window is really closing very, very quickly. We're seeing the disregard for law and order. We're seeing it in every corner of the city, and something we must have come to such a realization that we try and contain what's going on. We've got new laws that have come into place, the building code, that I hope will bring some sanity into what's been happening, because there was a little bit of a lacuna where we, with the new constitution, we didn't have a building code that was founded on law. And now one has been prepared, and now we're rolling that out. It's very clear what's expected, because like what I did in my university was around how the environment impacts learning, but really your buildings impact you, your health, the number of children with rickets, vitamin D, sunshine, all this building code helps to regulate that. It's actually a public health issue. The children don't have places to play because we've not planned for playgrounds, that buildings are back to back with no sunlight, you know, there's no little place where children can play, and that's a big reason why people are taking their kids to school very early, because that's where your child will get socialized, because there's no opportunity to play, free play like we did when we were growing up. So really I'm remaining optimistic but cautiously. So,
the way you said, like apartments back to back, that vitamin D is it's a real issue. A lot of kids have those
even
issues.
Adults
Actually when you take a test. It's true. Now I'd also like to get your thoughts, first of all, that debate of how high should we go, or what are your personal thoughts on that? Because as you said, should development follow infrastructure, or infrastructure will follow the development? How high is sustainable when we're talking about these skyscrapers?
I think and people, you know, speak towards Singapore and say they're this number, but even in Singapore, where you see them go very high, down there they leave a lot of greenery. It's one of the greenest cities. So I think there is a case for densification meaning that we can't, we're a growing city and we can't remain in Kilimani, for example, single dwelling on 1 acre when there's demand. But there has to be forethought, and I am a big proponent of planning. Or you either plan or you either fail to plan or you plan to fail. So if you're lacking the plan, we're going to fail. And I don't see any plan. I don't see any guiding principles right now where it's free fall, where, you know, it's this person has built this much, then I can build more and I can build more, without context of what's the master plan here, what's the big picture. Even if we're saying we're densifying, it can't be everywhere. There's areas, there are nodes you can densify, there are places that still need to be low density. There has to be a master plan and a bigger picture thought process around that, whether or not even the infrastructure has come. Say in 3 years we know we're going to bring water from this dam and see where we're going to improve the trunk lines this way, even as we're allowing certain numbers. So I think it's not supposed to be, you know, just an open book as it is right now. Proclamations being made in media houses. That's not how planning is done. It must. It's a science. It's a science. It's political. It's involving the citizens in saying what vision they have for their Nairobi. I mean, who are we building for? We're building for Nairobians. They must have a say in what city they want.
Okay. And I'd also like to get your thoughts in terms of education. You know, we've moved from the 844 to the CBC. There's been, you know, back and forth and whatnot. But what are your thoughts when it comes to the education system and where we are and what the future really is when it comes for the education of our children?
And you know, Nelson Mandela is one of my favorite quotes that says, education is the best weapon you can use to change the world. So our children are absolutely important. The education of our citizenry is absolutely important, especially a country like Kenya, where our biggest resource is actually human resource. Kenyans are known for their proficiency in terms of critical thinking, their proficiency in language and communication around the world. We rate very, very well, and that just stems from how much we invest and care about our education. So I think it is important that we don't lose the ball on that, because it's fundamental for Kenyans. You know, speaking to many Africans and African entrepreneurs across, they get it about Kenyans. I've heard there's a particular university that does online courses, a bit famous. I won't mention them, but they do tests across Africa to admit into their university, and Kenyans consistently score the highest in terms of ambition. They have a matrix that they use to, you know, to test your hustle factor or whatever you call it, proficiency, critical thinking. Kenyans always score higher than anybody else in Africa. So we must not lose this resource that we already have. We must invest in education. So some things are troubling me. Some things are troubling me in terms of our commitment to being orderly around how we are rolling out certain, or the new system, or rolling out certain change of policies that then impacts, you know, how people's access to education. Or so I still think I'm a big proponent also of CBC. So CBC is a good system in terms of where it's taking us, in terms of the shift to 21st century skills, yeah? Less about rote learning, more about critical thinking, collaboration, communication, application of your knowledge, because they're saying now that in your lifetime or our children's lifetime, you won't have one career. You'll probably have one career, retire from that, have another one, retire from that. So what is important in inculcating in our children, is a love for learning and that agility to critical think and reinvent. Just I can learn something new and apply myself. So I would, you know, in a sense, really implore powers that be that we take education very, very seriously. If we need to, the things that need to be resourced the most, education and healthcare, because they speak to the well-being of our people, and if the people are well, then the rest, you know, the rest of the magic will happen.
Okay. Now, on entrepreneurship, what has been your biggest success? Yes, whether it's in school, whether it's in architecture, what has been your biggest success, would you say? I
think building teams and building a thriving business is something that has given us a great joy. So to hear that what we're doing matters, that we have had impact. You know, a school is obviously a social enterprise, so there's a lot of impact that we're having. We see ourselves as change agents as a schools. We are changing the world one child at a time. We say we want to, you know, the leaders of this country, if we inculcate in them the value system that that really shows kindness, elevates empathy in terms of teamwork, collaboration. If we have young people who embrace these values, and the adults that they become will be fine. So that has been very, very fulfilling, especially in the social impact space like education, to see a child coming from 2 years to 17 and seeing what they're able to do. And for me, I'm looking forward, you know, to even the next, you know, presidents to come in 2050 and the others coming from this cohort of our school, because we believe that we're raising people who will impact the world positively, and that's our biggest mission. People who are not learning for the sake of learning, but they're learning to impact the world, and that has been very fulfilling. So I think just being able to build teams to create a thriving business that impacts others through even the people who work for you, but even beyond that, the houses we build, you know, really as architects, we are people who build people's dreams. So people dream it and we help them actualize it. So that is very, very fulfilling when we're able to help our clients actualize what their ambitions are in the built form, whether it's where their businesses are, whether it's where they live, and that has been absolutely fulfilling. So I don't take it for granted. You know, opportunity is given, and it's been very, very fulfilling.
Okay. And what has been the toughest lesson in entrepreneurship so far?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think not taking anything for granted. I think the big one was COVID for us, and how you can take things for granted, make certain assumptions, and a curveball is thrown at you. And being an entrepreneur is not only about yourself, you're actually supporting a whole ecosystem. So that was tough in terms of the lessons learned from COVID, not taking things for granted, but being able to make tough decisions sometimes that may impact people negatively, but on the whole are good for the business in the long run. That was very, very challenging, but it took some grit, took some, you know, to make tough decisions. So that's what you end up realizing, that as an entrepreneur, it's really not about you. You're supporting so many people, and those people are sort of you're custodians of their lives, and that has been very, very interesting to, especially COVID bringing that alive and making it so you have to be very careful about what you do, because anything you do impacts somebody somewhere.
Okay. And what does success mean to you? You've talked about the social enterprise, the school, seeing people grow up to responsible people and all that, but what is success to you personally?
To me personally is I've found that in my leadership journey, I have really enjoyed opening the space for other leaders to come. And that gives me a lot of fulfillment. So for me, success is what, after I'm gone, how do I leave spaces? You know, do I leave them thriving, or are they struggling without me? And I think success for me is that to raise others who come after me who are able to do even better than what I did. So investing in people, investing in other leaders who have the potential to do even better than you, and what you're leaving behind thriving and doing better than what you left there would be my definition of success.
Okay, and that brings me to mentorship. You talked about the mentorship you've received and now giving back to others. So what did mentorship, or what does it continue to look like for you when you mentor others, and how it has shaped you to who you are today?
Yeah, and mentorship has so many facets because sometimes even just by being the first female, whether someone interacts with me or not, there's a visual that they see someone who looks like me. This person looks like me and has done it. There's nothing I cannot do. So there's that almost passive mentorship. There's active membership in terms of people I've interacted with, and sometimes not even having scheduled session, but speaking power to them in terms of telling them what they're able to do, what they're capable to do, what potential you've seen in them. Sometimes it's something that can really that's all someone needs to say, why am I holding myself back? And then of course there's those ones around you who, by interacting with them, I think the best mentorship is that of modeling almost, that people see and they want to emulate. They want to emulate who you are as a leader, or who you are as a business person. I think that's the most powerful. Rather than me telling you what to do, is me doing and you seeing and being empowered to also do. So that's what encouraging people around me. I have friends who in some way also pour into me still to date, and that's just that pouring into each other and encouraging each other is very, very powerful.
Okay, I like that idea of modeling. It's really powerful. Now I want us to switch gears a little bit and just get to know a little bit more about you on the other side. What is your current read?
My current read? Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese or something like that. It's an Oprah book club book. Yes. So it's set in India, 1900. I like those type. But I'm one of those people who reads like 4 books at a time. So I'm reading that. So that's my fiction. I'm reading Elon Musk, which is very funny. Very funny in the sense of, in the context of what's happening in the world. So, but it's an older book, so it's not even. Hasn't even covered what he's able to do. It's probably a book from 5 years ago, but understanding what made him while he's doing what he's doing right now has been kind of exciting. So I'm reading that, and then Psychology of Money. Nice.
How's that?
That's good. That's good. I'm enjoying that. But I do love my fictions. But I make a point of trying to read the non-fictions as well. Struggle through it.
And who's on your playlist?
So I'm right now Kanji Mbugua with his Pambio song. I love that. Really gets me up and And then what do you do for fun? And CC Winans. I love
CC Winans. Classic.
Yes, classic. And she has some good new ones as well.
Yes, true. What do you do for fun?
I'm an avid jogger, and I box. Yes, and I travel. Those are things that I love to do for fun, and of course read. I'm an avid squared reader. I'm in like 3 book clubs now.
Really? Wow!
So everyone's always like, which book? You're cheating on us.
So how many books do you do in a year?
I probably do 2 in a month at a minimum. Some months I'll do 3.
Wow.
So sometimes I do 3. So let's say 30 books in a year.
So let's talk about work-life balance then. How do you balance everything? 2 organizations, you have
and
your other
more there,
and a couple more. How do you balance that out?
I think it's a support system. I mean, having the right people who in your organization, so you're not having to micromanage, because good leaders hate being micromanaged. So having the right people, having the right team is fundamental, and just knowing that you're a vision bearer. You can't get everything done, but you're a vision bearer. Same thing, modeling. This is what we do, setting systems in place that then it becomes very easy for people to follow. And then I'm also productivity. What do you call it?
Enthusiast, or
enthusiast. That's the word for it. So I read up a lot. I'm a 5 a.m. clubber.
Oh, yeah.
I'm time blocker, you know,
Okay.
like where you put what time, what things you do when, and don't mix them. Like, so I know.
Habits
so mentally
tracker.
I'm able to, yes, all those habits tracker, everything.
Yes.
You should see I have all types of apps and things.
Okay.
And I've found, you never get to perfection, but I found all the tips do help, you know, they do help to get to, you know, productivity. I give myself rewards, you know, Atomic Habits is my Bible.
Yes, I'm also there right now.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And now, okay, your children have grown up, but when you were at that stage of that critical stage where they really needed you, how did you balance everything out?
Yeah. Again, I said sometimes it's grace and support systems, but also just not timetabling your life and blocking. You know, this is time for family, it's time for family. Whatever happens, if I'm closing shop, I'm closing shop. But those hours in the morning, the 5 a.m., the sacred hour, it's called, the 1 hour.
2020.
Yes, 2020. That 1 hour in the morning where you may not even do work, but you are
getting your
decluttering
mindset,
your mindset. And that makes such a big difference in terms of how you set about your day and what you're able to do, or how cluttered you feel. So I'm a big, you know, early rise, early to rise, kind of person. Get yourself moving in the morning.
Yes.
Get your good hormones going in the morning.
Awesome.
Okay. So I'm a bit of a enthusiast when it comes to productivity and reading whatever there is and trying out whatever there is. So every week I will listen to a podcast about productivity. You know, following all of them. Robin Sharma or there's someone called Ali. Very good tips in terms of setting your goals. Promodo, you've heard of the Promodo technique.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not perfect. I still drop a lot of balls, but at least that's what helps a little bit.
Okay. Now, as we come to a close, I'd like you to look at the camera and speak to that woman who is coming up, whether she's in architecture, whether she's trying to start her own entrepreneurial venture. What is that one tip that you would give her to just keep on and build herself to where she wants to be?
So I think the most fundamental formula to creating a successful business is solving a problem that's needed by society. So if you're going to go out into business, find out what's that the society needs, and also looking beyond yourself, so that it's not always about money, but it's also seeing about what's my business impacting the world. And I can tell you, if you have that mindset, the rest sort of falls into place when you're looking at the bigger picture. So go at it. You've got it. It's been done before by many others. You're not the first, you won't be the last. You will hack it. So go for it.
You've heard it. We've been talking to Emma Miloyo, the founder of Kiota Schools and Design Source. Go for it. Solve a problem and the money will follow you later. This has been She Means Business. I have been your host, Claire Munde. Have a good one.